I made it. After years of late nights, ramen dinners, and crushing student debt, I finally landed my dream job as a senior software architect in Seattle. $240,000 a year. The number still felt surreal every time I saw my paycheck. I thought this success meant I could finally give back to my family in Cleveland, help them live a little easier. I wanted to be the son who made it and lifted everyone else up. But somewhere between gratitude and obligation, helping turned into owing. The day I saw my dad's text saying my success meant I owed them everything I knew, something had to change. Before I tell you how a single envelope marked address unknown changed everything, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. And if you have ever felt taken advantage of by the people you love most, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story might just give you the clarity you need. Now let me take you back to where it all started to fall apart. I grew up in a small middle-class neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. My dad, Gerald, spent 30 years working at the same manufacturing plant, coming home every night with grease under his fingernails and exhaustion in his eyes. My mom, Patricia, worked as a receptionist at a dental office, her cheerful phone voice masking the fatigue that came from being on her feet all day. We were not poor, but we were not comfortable either. Every dollar had a purpose. Every purchase required consideration. I was the oldest of 3 kids. My sister Denise was 4 years younger than me, always the social butterfly who could make friends with anyone. My brother Kyle came 7 years after me, the baby of the family who got away with everything. Growing up, I watched my parents stretch every paycheck, saw the stress lines deepen on their faces when unexpected bills arrived. I promised myself that one day I would do better. I would make enough money that they would not have to worry anymore. That promise drove me through high school, where I spent every spare moment teaching myself to code. While my friends were at parties, I was building websites for local businesses, saving every cent. The work paid off when I got a full scholarship to MIT for computer science. My parents cried at my graduation, proud, but also maybe a little relieved that they would not have to figure out how to pay for college. Boston was incredible. The classes were brutal, the competition intense, but I thrived. After graduation, I landed a job at a mid-sized tech firm making $75,000 a year. It felt like all the money in the world. I worked there for 3 years, learning everything I could, building my reputation. Then a recruiter reached out about a position in Seattle. Senior software architect. $240,000. I almost laughed when I heard the number. That was more than my parents had made combined in their best years. I took the job. How could I not? And the first thing I did after my first paycheck cleared was call my parents. I told them I wanted to send them $1,500 every month just to help out, make their lives a little easier, buy the groceries without checking prices, fix things when they broke instead of duct taping them together. My mom cried on the phone. My dad's voice got thick with emotion as he thanked me. That feeling, knowing I could actually help them, was better than any promotion or fancy title. For the first few months, everything felt perfect. I would video call home every Sunday and hear about how Mom finally got her hair done at a real salon instead of the budget place. Dad mentioned they went out to dinner twice in 1 month, something they had not done in years. Denise was starting college at Ohio State, and I bought her a nice laptop so she would not have to use the computer lab for everything. $2,000 felt like nothing compared to what it meant for her. Kyle needed his car fixed some transmission issue, and I sent $1,200 to cover it. Watching them receive help without the stress and struggle I remembered from childhood felt like I was rewriting our family story. But then 6 months in, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. Dad called on a Tuesday afternoon, which was unusual. He normally waited for our Sunday calls. His voice had this tone I could not quite place, somewhere between casual and urgent. "Your mother's car broke down," he said. "The mechanic says we need a new transmission. $4,000. He paused. We could really use your help with this one." I felt a small twist in my stomach, but pushed it aside. Of course I would help. That is what family does. I transferred the money that afternoon. 2 weeks later, Denise called. Her voice had that rushed quality of someone who had rehearsed what they were going to say. "So my phone completely died, and I also need money for textbooks this semester. The school bookstore is crazy expensive. Could you send $3,000? I hesitated for the first time, but guilt immediately followed. She was in college trying to build her future. How could I say no? A month after that, Dad called again. The roof was leaking. Water damage in the living room. They needed $15,000 to fix it properly. I sat at my desk in my Seattle apartment staring at my bank account. In 7 months, I had sent home $28,000. That was on top of the monthly $1,500. I did some quick math and felt my chest tighten. But I sent the money. They were my family. I made good money. I could afford it. What I did not realize then was that afford it and should do it were two very different things. By month 10, my phone ringing with a Cleveland area code started to make my anxiety spike. It was never good news anymore. Never just calling to chat or see how I was doing. Every call was a need, a crisis, an expense that somehow always landed on my shoulders. My mom called about Dad's dental work. His insurance did not cover it, she explained. $8,000 for crowns and a root canal. When I asked why they could not use their savings, her voice went cold. We raised you for 18 years, Columbus. We sacrificed everything. And now you are going to question helping us when we need it. The guilt hit like a physical weight. I transferred the money and felt sick about it for days. Thanksgiving came, and I flew home to Ohio. I had not been back since moving to Seattle, and part of me was excited to see everyone, to be in my childhood home. But when I walked through the door, something felt off. The living room had a massive new TV mounted on the wall, 75 inches at least. In the kitchen, my mom was pulling groceries from bags, expensive brands I knew she used to skip. She had a new designer purse sitting on the counter, the kind with the distinctive logo that cost upwards of $3,000. I tried to push down the uneasy feeling. Maybe they had saved up. Maybe they had gotten bonuses at work. But at dinner, when I complimented the TV, my dad just shrugged. "We deserve nice things too," he said. "You make so much money out there in Seattle, it is not like you will miss what you send us." The way he said it, so casual, so entitled, made my stomach drop. My mom nodded along. "You have been so blessed, Columbus. The least you can do is share that blessing with the people who made you who you are." I did not know what to say. We were in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, my siblings at the table, and I did not want to cause a scene. So I smiled and changed the subject. But that night, lying in my childhood bed, I could not sleep. Something had fundamentally shifted in how my family saw me. I was not their son anymore. I was their resource. After Thanksgiving, the requests became constant. Denise wanted money for a spring break trip to Miami with her friends. $2,500. When I suggested she get a part-time job to save up, she sent me a paragraph-long text about how I was being selfish and clearly did not care about her happiness. Kyle, who was 16, wanted a gaming computer. $3,200 for top-of-the-line equipment. Dad started saying the electric bill was too high every month and needed $600 to cover it. Mom wanted money for hair appointments and nail salons, $400 monthly for maintenance. I started saying no, not to everything, but to the requests that felt excessive. And every time I did, the response was the same. Disappointment, guilt trips, accusations of selfishness. Denise sent angry texts calling me heartless. Kyle stopped responding to my messages altogether. But it was my dad's reaction that hurt the most. He would call, and his voice would be cold, distant. "We sacrificed everything for you," he would say. We worked ourselves to the bone to give you a good life. And now you act like we are begging. I tried to explain that I had already sent them over $70,000 in 18 months, that I had my own bills, my own life to build my own future to save for. But every explanation was met with the same response. You do not get to decide when you have paid us back. As long as you are making that kind of money, you owe us. March of the following year brought everything to a head. Dad called on a Saturday morning. He wanted to renovate the kitchen. New cabinets, new appliances, new countertops. The whole thing, $50,000. When I said no, when I finally put my foot down and said that was too much, that I could not keep doing this, he exploded. Your own life. Everything you have is because of us. We fed you clothed. You put a roof over your head for 18 years. You think you did all that yourself? I stayed calm, or tried to. And I have sent you over $70,000 in 18 months. That is more than enough payback for raising me, which, by the way, is what parents are supposed to do. You chose to have kids. I did not ask to be born, owing you a debt for the rest of my life. He hung up on me. Just a click and silence. 20 minutes later, my mom texted. Your father is right. We gave you life. The least you can do is take care of us now that you can afford it. Then Denise chimed in. Then Kyle. A group assault of messages telling me I was ungrateful, selfish, heartless. That I had forgotten where I came from. I sat in my apartment staring at my phone and felt something crack inside me. These people, my family, did not love me. They loved what I could provide. They did not see me as a person with my own needs, my own dreams, my own life. They saw me as an ATM with an unlimited balance. And the worst part was realizing that as long as I stayed within reach, this would never stop. They would bleed me dry and feel justified doing it. The next week, I received an email that changed everything. It was from a furniture store in Cleveland. A bill for $12,000 for a new sofa set and dining room furniture. Shipping address was my parents' house. Billing name was mine. I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times before the reality sank in. I called the store immediately, my hands shaking as I dialed. The customer service representative was friendly, cheerful even. She confirmed that yes, Gerald Reynolds had come in 2 weeks ago and opened a credit account in my name. He had my social security number, my Seattle address, everything needed to make it look legitimate. The furniture had already been delivered. I asked how he got my information. She could not tell me, but I knew. I had given it to them years ago for tax documents, for emergency contact forms, trusting them because they were family. Before I could process that betrayal, my phone rang. A car dealership in Cleveland. They were calling to confirm the co-signing paperwork for Denise's new car, a $35,000 sedan, brand new, and apparently I had agreed to guarantee the loan. Except I had not. I had no idea this was even happening. I told the dealership there must be a mistake, that I never signed anything. The salesman sounded confused. Your father was here with your sister yesterday. He said you had agreed to help her get reliable transportation for school. I hung up and immediately called Denise. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice light and unconcerned. Oh yeah, Dad said you agreed to help. It is just a signature, Columbus. You make plenty of money. It is not like a car payment will hurt you. Something inside me snapped. It was not anger exactly. It was clarity. Cold, sharp, undeniable clarity. My family was not just asking me for money anymore. They were stealing from me. Using my identity, my credit, my financial stability as their personal playground, and they felt entitled to do it. I spent the next week in a haze of phone calls. I contacted a financial advisor, explained the situation, asked what I could do to protect myself. I talked to a lawyer about fraud and identity theft. Both gave me the same advice. Cut them off completely. Document everything. File police reports if necessary. But more than that, they said you need to create distance, physical distance. That night, lying in bed, unable to sleep, I made a decision. I was going to leave Seattle. Not because I did not like the city or the job, but because Seattle was still too close. It was a 3-hour flight to Cleveland. My family could still show up at my door if they wanted to. They could still find me pressure, me manipulate me in person. I needed to go somewhere they would not follow, somewhere far enough that dropping by was not an option. I started looking at job postings on the East Coast, but then a recruiter contacted me about a position in Austin, Texas. Same role, similar pay, great company culture. Austin was 1,000 miles from Cleveland, far enough to make visiting inconvenient, far enough to make me feel safe. I took the interview. 3 days later, they offered me the position. I accepted without hesitation. The next 2 weeks were a blur of careful planning. I opened a new bank account at a different institution, one my family had no connection to. I changed my phone number and only gave the new one to my closest friends and my employer. I contacted all 3 credit bureaus and put a freeze on my credit so no one could open accounts in my name. I closed every credit card, every account that my family might have information about. I found an apartment in Austin through a property management company and signed the lease online. The address went nowhere except to my new employer and the post office for mail forwarding. Then came the hard part. I sat down and wrote an email to my entire family. I rewrote it a dozen times trying to find the right words. In the end, I kept it simple and direct. I cannot continue to financially support the lifestyle you have become accustomed to. Over the past 2 years, I have sent you over $90,000. Instead of appreciation, I have received demands, manipulation, and ultimately fraud. Dad, you opened a credit account in my name without permission. Denise, you tried to make me co-sign for a car I knew nothing about. These are crimes. I could press charges, but I will not because you are family. However, I am done. I am moving. I will not be providing my new address or phone number. I need you to take responsibility for your own finances and your own lives. I love you all, but I will not be your ATM anymore. I sent it on a Monday morning and immediately blocked all their numbers on my old phone. Within minutes, my email inbox exploded. Messages from Mom, from Dad, from Denise, from Kyle. Some begged, some threatened, some tried guilt. Dad's email said I was abandoning my family and would regret it. Mom said I was breaking her heart. Denise called me selfish and cruel. Kyle said he never wanted to speak to me again anyway. I read them all once, saved them to a folder for documentation, and then set up a filter to send their emails to a separate folder I did not have to look at. The movers came on a Saturday in May. I watched them load my furniture, my boxes, my entire life into a truck headed for Texas. My neighbors asked where I was going, and I just said I got a new job. No details. No forwarding address beyond the post office. By Sunday evening, I was in Austin walking into my new apartment feeling lighter than I had in 2 years. But the real moment of freedom came 2 months later. I got a notification from the Postal Service that my mail forwarding was about to expire. I logged in to review what had been sent to my new address. Most of it was junk mail and a few bank statements. But there was one item that made me stop and stare. A large envelope from that furniture store in Cleveland. It had been sent to my old Seattle address. The Postal Service had forwarded it to Austin with a large red stamp across the front. Address unknown. Return to sender. I held that envelope in my hands and felt something I had not felt in a long time. Satisfaction? Peace. They were still trying to send bills to an address I no longer lived at. They had no idea I was 1,000 miles away in Texas. They could not reach me. Could not guilt me. Could not manipulate me. I was finally truly free. 6 months into my life in Austin, I barely recognized myself. The constant anxiety that had become my baseline in Seattle was gone. I was not waking up at 3 in the morning, worrying about which family member would call with a crisis next. My bank account was actually growing instead of being drained every month. For the first time since landing that high-paying job, I was able to save, to invest, to plan for my own future. Work was going well. My new team respected my skills and my boundaries. Nobody asked about my personal life beyond normal friendly conversation. I made friends with people who wanted to grab coffee or see a movie, not people who wanted something from me. It was refreshing in a way I had not anticipated. One of those friends introduced me to Madison, a third-grade teacher who made $55,000 a year and was more financially stable than my entire family combined. She was smart, funny, and most importantly, she never once asked me to pay for anything beyond my fair share. On our third date, when the check came, she immediately reached for her wallet. When I offered to cover it, she smiled and said, "How about we split it? I make my own money." That simple statement almost made me emotional. I found myself thinking about what normal looked like, what healthy relationships looked like. Madison would talk about her family, about Sunday dinners with her parents, and game nights with her siblings, and I realized that none of her stories involved money. They just enjoyed each other's company. They supported each other emotionally, not financially. It was such a foreign concept to me now that I had to actively remind myself that this was how families were supposed to work. After 6 months of radio silence, I unblocked my family's emails, not because I wanted to reconnect, but because I needed to know if the situation had changed, if they had learned anything. The first few emails were exactly what I expected. Angry messages about how I had abandoned them, how I was selfish and ungrateful. My dad's emails were full of blame and accusations. My mom's were manipulative, talking about how much they missed me while in the same paragraph, mentioning how hard things were financially. But then slowly, the tone started to shift. 3 months after I left, Denise sent an email that was different. No demands. No guilt trips. Just a simple message saying she had gotten a job at a retail store. It was not much she wrote, but it was helping. She was learning to budget. It was hard, but she was managing. I did not respond, but I felt something that might have been pride. Maybe a little bit of hope. Kyle never reached out. That was fine. He was still young, still probably angry. Maybe one day he would understand. Or maybe he would not. I was learning that I could not control how other people reacted to my boundaries. My dad's final email came 4 months after I moved. It was not an apology. Gerald Reynolds did not apologize. But it was an acknowledgement. We had to figure things out, he wrote. It was not easy. Your mother picked up extra hours. I've been doing side work on weekends. We are making it work. He did not say he understood why I left. He did not say he was wrong. But between the lines, I could read what he was not saying. They were surviving without me. They were taking responsibility. It was something. I sat in my Austin apartment, the evening light coming through the windows, and thought about how far I had come. Not just the 1,000 miles of distance, but the emotional journey from guilt-ridden son to someone who understood that loving your family did not mean sacrificing yourself on the altar of their expectations. I had learned that family does not mean you owe them everything you earn. That helping someone and being exploited are two fundamentally different things. That setting boundaries is not selfish. It is survival. It is self-respect. It is recognizing that you are a person with value beyond what you can provide. For years, I had carried this belief that my success created a debt, that making good money meant I had to share it, had to support everyone around me, had to prove I had not forgotten where I came from. But success is not a debt. It is the result of hard work, sacrifice, and determination. I did not owe my parents a lifetime of financial support because they fed and clothed me as a child. That was their job. That was what they signed up for when they decided to have children. Real love does not demand, it does not manipulate, it does not keep score. My family had turned my love into leverage, my success into obligation. Moving to Austin, creating that 1,000 miles of space, was not me running away. It was me choosing peace over guilt. It was me choosing my future over their expectations. It was me finally understanding that I mattered too. I thought about that envelope with address unknown stamped across it. In a way, that was the perfect metaphor for what I had done. I had made myself unknown to the people who only valued me for what I could give them. I had erased myself from the place where I was seen as a resource rather than a person. And in doing so, I had found myself again. Madison asked me once why I never talked about my family. We were having dinner at her apartment, and she had just gotten off a video call with her parents. I hesitated, not sure how to explain without sounding bitter. Eventually, I told her a condensed version of the story. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "That must have been so hard," she said. "But you did the right thing. You cannot set yourself on fire to keep other people warm." I had never heard that expression before, but it hit me like a revelation. That was exactly what I had been doing, burning myself down to keep my family comfortable. Now, sitting in my living room in Austin, I felt genuinely content. My savings account was healthy. My credit score had recovered from the damage my father's fraudulent account had done. I had friends who liked me for me. I had a girlfriend who valued partnership over provision. I had a job I enjoyed without the constant stress of knowing my paycheck was already spent before it even hit my account. Did I miss my family? Sometimes. I missed the idea of them, the version of them that existed before money poisoned everything. I missed Sunday dinners and inside jokes and feeling like I belonged somewhere. But I did not miss the anxiety. I did not miss the manipulation. I did not miss being seen as a wallet instead of a person. Looking back now, I can see the whole journey with clarity. I can see how my desire to help morphed into obligation, how obligation became exploitation, how exploitation almost destroyed me financially and emotionally. I can also see how making the hard choice, the choice that felt selfish and wrong at the time, was actually the most self-respecting thing I could have done. They say blood is thicker than water, but I learned that sometimes you need to thin it out a bit to breathe again. And if creating 1,000 miles of distance was what it took to find myself to build a life based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation, then it was 1,000 miles well spent. Every single one of them. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who only saw you as a source of money or support? Drop your story in the comments below. I would love to hear how you handled it. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences about setting boundaries and choosing yourself. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to put themselves first. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you the courage to create whatever distance you need to protect your peace. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember that your worth is not measured by what you can give others, but by how well you take care of yourself first.